Ryan Jordan, and you're watching On Deck with Tyler Redmond.
So I got a call that said, this is Susan Bailey. And I said, yeah, but I'm sorry, I don't know a Susan Bailey. She goes, I'm Henry Aaron's secretary. And I went, yeah. She goes, Henry would like to talk to you. I said, yeah, okay. And he said, how would you like to fly down to Sarasota and look at our pictures? And I said, I would love to. He said, well, when can you do it? Jokingly, I said, tomorrow. He goes, okay, we'll take care of that. I'll meet you at the airport in Atlanta. Susan will have the arrangements. And then I get on a plane with Hank Aaron and fly down to Sarasota. He offers me a job, and I said, well, what team do you want me to manage? He goes, no, he wants you to be a pitching coach.
Hi, this is Phil Necro. You're watching On Deck with Tyler Redmond.
Most guys throw it this way. Put the ball back in here, hands come around, and these two fingers come into the ball. And stiff wristed, no follow throw, and just little up and goes in the bat and hope there's no rotation on. The ball comes in there and doesn't bother. It doesn't never do the same thing twice.
This is Kyle Wright, and you're watching On Deck with Tyler Redmond.
One of my favorite moments for your career as of right now is actually this past week. It was a show of confidence by Brian Snicker. He left you in the game after bases were loaded. Talk to me about that.
Yeah, it was really cool. I went back and I saw that clip on Instagram several times. I'll be honest, I went back and I watched it numerous times. Kind of gave me chills a little bit. It was just really cool. I was kind of lost my command a little bit there. Still made some good pitches, but was definitely getting a little tired. So whenever he said basically left me in the game, I feel like that kind of gave me what I needed to get me over the hump to make a good pitch, get a ground ball back to me, and get out of that inning.
This is Matt Olson. You're watching On Deck with Tyler Redmond. Yeah, it's a pretty cool experience. Not everybody gets this opportunity to kind of set up their roots and be somewhere long term that they grew up and have family and friends. So it happened pretty quick there in spring training, and it was just an opportunity that my wife and I and my family thought that we couldn't pass up. So just jumped on it, and it's been a blast.
Says, Chief, why don't you race Ralph Garr? I said, okay. Said, Ralph Garr wants to race you too. So we started on the first base line on the outfield line. We started, bam, took off running. I beat him by 3 foot.
Mike Fulton-Evers here. You're watching On Deck with Tyler Redmond.
I'm Kelsey Wingert, and you're watching On Deck with Tyler Redmond.
Hey, this is Andrew Jones. You watch On Deck with Tyler.
Hello, baseball fans. You're watching On Deck with Tyler Redmond.
Welcome into On Deck. I'm Tyler Redmond, and it is time to pop the champagne. I can't do this. It's time to pop the champagne because the Braves are 5th time straight division champs. Guys, what an exciting night by the Braves tonight. Beat the Marlins. Kenley Jansen held it down. The bullpen held it together. Jake Odorizzi had a great appearance. It was a good night to be a Braves fan. The past week or so has been an amazing watch. The Braves have had a great week, and hopefully it'll carry into the postseason with the momentum. It's been really fun to watch, truly. And I know you guys are going to be very active in the chat, rightfully so. I mean, it has been just insane this past week. And I'm glad that we've been here with you following every step of the way. We were sitting on pins and needles tonight wondering if it was going to happen, and it officially has. So the Braves will have a bye in the first round. That's what's important here. The Mets will be taking the wild card slot. They, of course, I believe, are on their way to winning both games of the doubleheader. So winning today was really important for the Braves. Otherwise, tomorrow would have probably been a mandatory win by Atlanta. So it's over. The NL East is over officially. The Braves win it. 5 straight division champs in a row, but beyond that, they set up well in the postseason. Guys, since you're tuning in, we already have a super chat. We're going to get to that in just a second, but since you're tuning in, do me a favor, like the video, subscribe to the channel if you are new, and of course, hit the bell for notifications so that you can stay up to date with everything going on here at On Deck, and of course, with the Atlanta Braves. Also, we're going to talk to you directly. We're going to be in the comment section pretty much all night. Not a lot to talk about tonight. Obviously, the Braves did enough to win the ball game. That's really all there is to it. But they are the division champs. They will play likely the winner of the Phillies and the Cardinals. So whoever wins the wild card series there will eventually face the Braves. That being said, let's talk to you guys. Of course, we have a super chat already, like I mentioned. It is from Joseph Alvarez. He gets the night started. Thank you for tuning in, Joseph. He said that this division title is the sweetest. And you know what? Couple of key things I want to focus in tonight. Number one, the National League East by far was the toughest division. If anyone tells you otherwise, they're not educated. No other division in baseball had two teams even close to 100 wins. Not two. They might have had one, but they didn't have two. That being said, the NL East has been a very tough division for a long time. Look at how much the Marlins put up a fight at the end. Look at how good their pitching was. That's what the Braves have been dealing with. So don't let anyone fool you. The National League East is a really, really tough division. So with that being said, credit to the Braves. Credit to the Braves front office for being able to create a team and build a team to be able to combat someone like the Mets. As much as, as much as the Braves could have fallen off, they didn't. And, being down 10.5 games, you think the chances to win the division are over, and it never was. Again, toughest division by far. So it is what it is. And not to mention, you have 3 teams in the postseason. It's not just the Mets and the Braves. The Phillies snuck their way in there. So that there's something to be said for that. So it was the toughest division. So to your point, Joseph, with Super Chat, to your point, it was the toughest division, and I think that in turn makes it the sweetest division title of the past few years. Of course, we'll have to see how it goes into the postseason. We'll see how it progresses. But for right now, I think we can all feel pretty good. Jake Hobby tunes in. He says 5th straight National League East championship. Monte Cristo tunes in. He says go Braves. Chris Field says what's up, Tyler? The East is ours. Look, I don't know about you guys, but I had my goggles ready tonight. Hope you did too. Who Dat says let's go Braves. Cashing them East tickets. For sure. Absolutely. You can go ahead and start buying your NLDS tickets. They will be on sale, I'm sure, if they're not already. Bill Gates says Braves win. Braves win. Yes, they do. Donta Spate says, let's go. We are back to back to back to back to back NL East champs. Traction Jackson says, left a lot of runners on, but we got it done. That's the key there. We got it done. Of course, I was hoping they'd have a 6-run lead by the 7th inning so I wouldn't be stressed out, but we'll take it any way we can get it. Donta says, let's Atlanta Braves keep on chopping the opponents. Absolutely. You guys are real active in the chat tonight. I've got a feeling that's going to be the case the entire way. Do me a favor, though, one more time. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell for notifications, all that good stuff. It really does help the channel. And, of course, you can follow me right there on Twitter and right over there on Instagram. Those tags are also in the description below on my link tree, so make sure to check those out as well if you need the link. But those are the tags. And a lot of you guys have been adding me there, and that is just a way you can follow me a little more closely. Maybe see memes I post about the Braves, whatever the case may be. It's just a way to follow me a little bit more closely. All right, so let's talk to Clayton McCullers. He says, chop, chop, baby. Where are those Mets fans hiking at now? You got to feel bad for Mets fans in a way. We've all been there. There was a video of Frank reacting to Dansby's homer the other day. Frank Fleming, if you're not familiar, you should be. It's a good follow for any Braves fan, any fan of anyone but the Mets. It's a pretty good follow. It is what it is. But, I hate it for him, but at the same time, love it for the Atlanta. Clayton McCullers wants to talk about Odorizzi tonight. Yeah, I think we all kind of were a little hesitant with Odorizzi on the mound tonight. You kind of wish we had won last night just to put it behind us. That being said, glad it's over. Glad we got the monkey off our back. Odorizzi pitched really well tonight. 1 run through, I think, 5 or 6 innings. I'm not sure exactly, but I think it was 6 innings. He pitched great. He got the job done, handed it off to the pen, who I thought did a great job tonight. A.J. Minter did well. Colin McHugh did well. Raisel Iglesias continues to do well. Kenley Jansen held on to win it. Really a great night all around. When the offense isn't clicking, that's when the pitching staff has to hold up their end of the bargain. And, guys, I got to be honest with you. Going into the postseason, it's going to be a lot of low-scoring games. The games we saw against the Mets, I didn't expect. I think that's an anomaly. We faced the Dodgers and their pitching staff with every guy on their starting rotation has a less than 3 ERA. Runs are going to be hard to come by. And, they have a pretty good bullpen themselves. So runs are going to be hard to come by. That being said, I think you can look at that and see in tonight that this team can win those games. And that is something to keep in mind. But again, Odorizzi, great night tonight. Hopefully, that says something going into the postseason. I think it does. There's been a lot of talk about whether or not Odorizzi will be on the roster. I think this does a lot to say that he will be. But I don't know that he's necessarily going to be a starter. I don't know if he's quite earned that. But again, I think one of the biggest takeaways from tonight and really the series with the Mets is how good Kenley Jansen was. There's been a lot of talk about whether or not he could be a closer. We did a video on it a couple of weeks ago. Didn't necessarily call for him to be switched out, but the concern was there. His cutter wasn't there. His sinker wasn't really there. And that led to a lot of concern, rightfully so. So there was that conversation being had amongst Braves fans, maybe behind the scenes. We certainly had it on this channel, and it was because you guys were talking about it, and I felt it should be discussed. That being said, I think going forward we can all be a little bit more comfortable knowing that Kenley has found his stuff. And Chip Carey mentioned it tonight. The magic is back with Kenley Jansen. So hopefully that will continue. And on that note, we have another super chat. Robert Gall tunes in. He says, Iggy is unbelievable, maybe the best move ever made at our deadline. Check on our boy Sal. Look, Iglesias has been phenomenal. Without a doubt, he has been a great reliever. Before tonight, he had a .36 ERA since joining the Atlanta squad. I think that speaks for itself. It says a lot when your fan base is calling for you to be the closer. But beyond that, he has been great. He has really steadied the pen. He's been one more arm that we can go to in the late innings. It's not always A.J. Minter. It's not always Tyler Matzik. It's not always Kenley Jansen. Sometimes we can throw Rysell in there. Sometimes we can throw Colin McHugh in the middle innings because Rysell is there. He's been a real consistent hand out of the pen, and there is something to be said for that. And really, you feel like, the other team isn't going to get anything off Iglesias. And that's been real fun to watch and real good to see, honestly. There's a lot of relievers that we can say that about, but Iglesias has been phenomenal. And, credit to Alex Anthopoulos, again, for finding him at the deadline, making that move. That was another Alex Anthopoulos special at the deadline. We all know about last year where it was Jorge Soler, Eddie Rosario, Richard Rodriguez, and there was, of course, Adam Duvall picked up and Jock Peterson, the mainstream deals, really. But those three I just mentioned, that Richard Rodriguez, Jorge Soler, Eddie Rosario, and I would even say, Stephen Vogt in that same conversation, none of those were big-time moves at the time. They turned out to be later. I think Rysell Iglesias is a move that turned out to, really do well for the Braves later on. I think he's one of those moves. And beyond that, Robbie Grossman has been a real great presence to have in the lineup. A real good guy to have. And the thing about Grossman, it's not going to show in his batting average, but that guy rakes. That guy hits. He gets on base. And, when he doesn't get on base, he's smoking one. He's putting a ball in play. He's moving runners. He's sending guys home. Whatever the case may be, that guy is a ball player. And he's been great since the Braves got him as well. I don't think he gets the credit he deserves. I think a lot of us realize how good he is, but it's still not exactly registered amongst all of Braves country. And Grossman is one of those guys. Iglesias kind of gets the credit that's owed to him because it's so apparent he's on the mound every other night, but Grossman is one of those guys that's under the radar that continues to perform, and I just want him to get that credit as well. But thank you to, who was that? Robert Gall for the Super Chat. We really do appreciate it. Reminder on that note, guys, Super Chats really do help the channel. If you Super Chat, you do get moved to the front of the line. Got a feeling those are going to be real active tonight, so just a reminder, if you got a question or concern, Super Chats are probably the way to go. You guys have been super active this past week, of course. Obviously, with the series with the Mets, that's a given. But this series tonight, we didn't come on last night. Didn't really want to talk to you guys after a loss. But we did want to come tonight, obviously celebrate the Braves clinching, talk about the future maybe. But yeah, this is where we are right now. And the Braves will move on. Let's see. Rebecca Parrish says, woohoo! She gives a big scream. She says, now the real fun and anxiety begins. Let's talk about the real fun and anxiety, shall we? Let's talk about what's ahead of us. Let's talk about where the Braves are going. I know I made this graphic. Give me just a second. I will find it. I thought I could find it. Well, we will find it. Don't worry. The Braves are headed to the postseason, and I brought this up the other night. The Braves are headed to the postseason. That's the important thing. We're going to talk about where exactly they are heading, and I'm going to pull that up right now as soon as I can, guys. Sorry about that. You guys, again, stay active in the chat. We are going to be here really as long as the chat carries us, so just keep that in mind. But yeah, the postseason is just around the corner. Of course, the wild card series kick off Friday night, and of course, we will be active throughout the entire postseason. So just keep that in mind. We got some good plans. We got game 1 of the NLDS. We already got a plan made to make the stream special. We are probably going to be going live really throughout the entire game. So keep that in mind. Plan for that. If you want to listen to us, all you got to do is pull out your phone and be a part of it. I will be bringing in a Braves alumni, pending that he can make it. But we will be bringing him in. He's a friend of mine. Not going to drop his name just in case he can't make it in. Don't want you guys to be disappointed. But he is planning to come, and he is planning to sit next to me, and we will go through really the entire game, give you kind of what we think, and really just have a conversation while the game's going on. So you're not going to want to miss that for sure. But yeah, keep that in mind. Here we go. The postseason picture. This is, of course, on the internet already. This is what you're looking at. This is if the postseason were to start today, this is what it would look like. So, now granted, if things are changing on the American League side, forgive me, but the National League is pretty standard. Cardinals and Phillies. The winner of that game winner of that series now. Remember, the postseason is different now. It's not a 1-game wild card. It's a 3-game wild card. That puts the teams in the wild card at a big disadvantage, and I'll explain that in a second. What you need to know right now is that the Cardinals and the Phillies are going head-to-head in the wild card series. The winner of that game will play the Braves in, I believe, a best-of-5, and then the winner of that, hopefully will be the Braves, will take on the winner of the Dodgers against the winner of the Padres and Mets. They will take on the Braves to find out who goes to the World Series in the LCS. So we're focusing really on the National League side right now. The wild card series. This is why the series with the Mets was so important. When you look at the wild card series, again, a 3-game series, it's back-to-back with the NLDS. You don't have a big break there, which means you're going to have to at least use 2 starting pitchers. For the Mets, you can't use both DeGrom and Scherzer and expect to see them both twice in the NLDS versus the Dodgers. So essentially, you're playing the Dodgers on short rest if you make it that far, which for the Mets, I got to be honest with you, I look at the Padres, I think the Padres are going to win that series. You have Yu Darvish, you have Blake Snell, and you have Joe Musgrove that you have to get through if you're the Mets. I don't really think the Mets lineup has a ton of thump in it right now, considering Starling Marte is out. They didn't hit very well against the Braves, and I really look at it, the starting rotation for the Padres is really good. I just don't know that they're really going to do it. To be honest with you, on that same note, since we're talking about the postseason for a second, the wild card series, the way it shapes out, I don't see any team. The Nationals did it back in 2019. The difference is, they went all the way and won the World Series in 2019. The difference is they played 1 game and then moved on and had to really fight their way up. You're talking about a 3-game series that backs up pretty much right exactly to the division series. I don't see a team capable of winning the wild card and moving that far. I just don't. I look at the Mets especially. You're talking about going up against the Dodgers on short rest, a team that has everything, a great starting rotation, a really good bullpen, a great lineup. The Mets don't have that right now because, look, the Mets are down again. I mean, look, they're down Starling Marte in the offense. Their offense wasn't really the key to their strength all year long, but beyond that, I look at their starting rotation. I have big question marks over DeGrom, big question marks over Scherzer. I don't trust Taijuan Walker in that situation. I don't really trust Carlos Carrasco in that conversation. So I look at all that, and I really have a lot of question marks, and that's only if they beat the Padres. Now, if the Padres win, then it gets a little interesting, but there is not a team in this scenario that I think can legitimately get past either the Yankees, the Braves, the Astros, or the Dodgers. I just don't think, in the way it's set up right now, that there is a team that can do that fundamentally. Now, in the future, there may be a team that has 5 solid starters, no doubt about it, can pitch in any way, shape, or form. uniform. But right now, if you take a look at this graphic again, let's just take a look at the Guardians for a second. The Guardians have a good pitching staff. Zach Plesac is on that team. Shane Bieber is on that team, former Cy Young Award winner. Even them, I don't know if they can necessarily get past the Yankees on short rest. It used to be wild card, kind of got you a little bit more of a fair shot. You had one game, and then you had to kind of recalibrate and pick up against the series in the DS. It's not that way anymore. It's different now. So keep that in mind. The Mets are really at a disadvantage. That's what we were playing for. That's what the Braves were playing for. It is a big deal. And again, it's not over. I mean, anything is possible in the postseason. Let's be real. But logistically, it's not where you want to be. Going forward, we need to keep that in mind. No matter whose fan base you're a part of, you got to keep that in mind for your team. It's a real disadvantage now to be in the wild card. Now, guys, there's a lot of people in the chat. I thank you guys for tuning in. While you're here, do me a favor, like the video, subscribe to the channel if you are new. I really would appreciate it. Obviously, it's a big deal for Braves fans right now. We want you to be a part of this community. We talk about all of Major League Baseball as well as the Atlanta Braves because of where we are located. But please make sure to be a part of this. Subscribe, like the video, and, of course, hit the bell for notifications so that you know when we go live. We're going to be going live all postseason long, but we want you to be a part of it. So that being said, let's check back in. And also remember, Super Chats. We got a real active chat tonight. I'm going to try to get to everybody. If you have a legit question you want answered, make sure to Super Chat. That's really the only way I can narrow it down. That being said, let's tune back into the chat. Bill Gates says, you got to play the Frank the Tank meme of him saying the Braves never lose. I don't have it ready. I thought about playing it tonight. Don't have it ready. I'm sorry about that, but maybe at some point towards the end of the season I will do that. Maybe at some point we can get Frank the Tank on. I would actually love to talk to that guy. Vision Music Works says the NL East is over, quote unquote. Yeah, it's over. It is over. It is officially over. I'm not, going to go out there and check on Sal and pick on Sal. I'll give it to Sal Licata. I think I'm saying his name right. Sal came out, got on a local Atlanta radio station and took his beating like a man. You got to give him credit for that. Yeah, Donta says, I told Mets fans not to sleep on the Braves. Yeah, I think they learned. They learned their lesson. I'm going to tune in towards the bottom of the list, just going to try to catch up a little bit. You guys are so active tonight. I got a great community here at On Deck, and you guys are showing it tonight, really. Lion Man says, honestly, I don't think we need to be concerned with the Mets. We're not so concerned with the Mets at this point, but before today, if the Braves lost today, if they had lost today, they essentially tomorrow would either be a must-win or the Mets would have had to lose. So you don't want to get into that situation because if you get into that situation, you don't set your own destiny anymore. The Braves decided not to do that. They set their own destiny, and now, of course, they're where they want to be in the National League Division Series to start out the postseason. That is a big deal. Super chat from Jonathan Roberson, a good buddy of mine. Jonathan, I said this last stream, but I'll say it again. Jonathan provided me with this chair right here that I'm sitting in. He's a good buddy from in town. Thanks for tuning in, man. He says, how sweet it is. Let's run this thing back. Look, and the Braves have just as much of a chance as anybody. I keep pulling this graphic up, but they have just as much chance as anybody. They got to get through the Dodgers. That's a challenge every year. The Dodgers are stacked every year. But look, they did it last year. I believe they can do it again. And you know what? The Braves are just as good as anybody. If I'm honest with you, if I'm picking this right now, a lot of people would want my postseason predictions. I see the Braves and the Dodgers matching up in the NLCS. I would probably see the Yankees and the Astros matching up in the ALCS. And I know that's not something that's unpredictable, but I'm trying to be reasonable here. I mean, it's just basic mathematics. I don't see a team from the wild card legitimately opposing a team that's already got a bye as in the division series. I just don't. It could happen. I could be drastically wrong. I just don't think that's going to be the case. So if I'm honest with you, I think it's going to come down between the Braves and the Dodgers once again in the championship series. And we all know how that ended last year with this homer right here by Eddie Rosario to send the Braves eventually to the World Series. But look, the Braves have a long road ahead. How sweet it is, for sure. It's been a great year. The Braves have come back from so much. They came back from so much last year. And also keep in mind, the Braves beat the Mets, and as great as that is, they did it without some of their key players. We've talked about that pretty extensively, but we're not done talking about it. We're going to get back a couple of those players. Spencer Strider is already throwing on flat ground, feeling good about it. His next step is to throw at an angle. If we get Strider back in a week and that dude's at full health, look out, postseason. It's going to be different. We already beat the Mets 3 in a row with Morton. I believe we would have definitely with Strider. That being said, you're also getting a guy named Ozzie Albies back. We recently sat down with Ron Washington and talked to him about the impact a guy like Ozzie Albies can make. There's been plays that I've seen. I love Orlando Arce. I think he's a great player, especially off the bench. But there's been plays throughout the infield that I've seen go up the middle that I thought to myself, and I'm sure you did too, I thought to myself, I think Ozzie would have fielded that. They got through, and it's really not even a knock on anybody. It's just Ozzie is that good of a second baseman. Again, we recently talked to Ron Washington. That interview is up on the channel. I really suggest you go watch it. It's about 7 minutes. We talked to him right before Game 2 of the Mets series, so obviously you can tell he was excited to play that one. But yeah, we talked to him about the Braves' postseason chances. We talked to him about the returning stars. We talked to him about Michael Harris and Vaughn Grissom, players like that. So it's a really good interview. You ought to go check it out. That being said, guys like that we're getting back, Ozzie Albies and Spencer Strider namely, are going to be a big deal. They're going to cause big impacts in the postseason. Make no mistake about it. And I'm looking forward to that. Hopefully it'll be sooner rather than later. We got a super chat, and it is from my good buddy Newman. Hello, Newman. He says, if the Phillies beat the Cards, do we play them? Seems like it makes more sense that the Dodgers would. Thanks, and chop on. So the Phillies have been moving around a lot. Without a doubt, they have been moving around a ton. But that being said, this is where it stands at the moment. So if the Phillies somehow or another beat the Cardinals, which of course is possible, we will match up with them in the NLDS. And I think that'd be very exciting to see an NL East matchup in the postseason. I think that would be very exciting. Personally, I'd probably rather face the Phillies. The Cardinals are a little better, in my opinion. And the Phillies, we've seen more. We've hit them more. We've pitched against them more. I think we're a better team than the Phillies, and I'd stick with that. And, credit to their manager, credit to their team. They had just a terrible start this year, but they've managed to make the postseason in comeback fashion. They managed to do it with DHs across the outfield, so credit to them for sure. But, yeah, the Phillies are who the Braves will match up against. Thank you, Newman, for that question. I hope I got to clarify that. But yeah, the Phillies would be the team to move on to face the Braves to find out who would move on to the NLCS. That is how you would follow that. Of course, you see the situation that the Mets and Phillies are in. With the 3 teams from the NL East that are in the postseason, I would much rather be the Atlanta Braves right now. I think they're much more set up for success, and I think we'll see. I say every year that the how do I put this? The regular season is a marathon. The postseason is a sprint. There's some aspects of that are true, but I look back at this postseason bracket, and I want you to realize it's a little bit of a marathon itself, especially with the new rules. Because, again, the wild card really throws in a factor because you have to think about your team holding up their ground. You have to think about your team holding their momentum through 3 games, possibly 3 games, maybe 2, but 3 games, and your starting rotation has to be ready to pitch right back the next series in the NLDS and then into the NLCS. You're just set up better without having to deal with it. You're at a disadvantage. That's the whole point of the wild card. You play the regular season for a reason. It means something. And, credit to the Braves. They won it at the end there, and it was a big deal for sure. Again, guys, thank you guys for tuning in. We have a very active chat tonight. I can't thank you all enough for tuning in. It really does help the channel. Do me a favor, though. Like the video. Subscribe to the channel. Hit the bell for notifications so that you can be updated anytime we go live, whether it be about the Atlanta Braves, whether it be about something covering all of Major League Baseball. We go live all throughout the postseason. You're not going to want to miss it. Make sure you use Super Chat. I really would appreciate it. Just going to grab a question here. Let's go to Robert Cullen. Not to mention Bryce Harper has never won a postseason series. That is interesting. Maybe he can snap that streak and head on to face the Braves. Maybe the Phillies can do it. Maybe not. I think Bryce Harper is actually a very good player. I know being in Atlanta that's not exactly a popular thing to say around here, but Bryce Harper is a dang good player. And I say that because look, when I'm flipping channels and Bryce Harper's at the plate, I'm gonna sit there and watch it. The dude's exciting and he's very good. Let's see. Heath Panther says, wasn't pretty, but that's 5 straight, and after tomorrow, a break till Tuesday. Yeah, that break is key for the Braves. We mentioned Spencer Strider and Ozzie Albies. Don't want to just skip over that. The break in the middle of those series, the break that the Braves are about to get is going to give them time to heal. It's going to rest your pen. It's really going to make a lot of difference. For the Mets, on the other hand, they got to be ready by Friday. Guys, it's what is it, Wednesday, Tuesday? It's Tuesday. They got to be ready by Friday, and they still have a game with the Nationals to play tomorrow if it doesn't get rained out. But they still have a lot before they even make it to where the Braves are. The Braves have a rest until Tuesday. They have some time to really figure it out, probably process who their opponent will be, watch who their opponent will be, and dissect it. And not to mention, they will be rested compared to whoever they face out of the Phillies and Cardinals. We will see. We will certainly see. Let's see. Jake Hobby brings up a good point. He says Fried might want some innings tomorrow. I'm going to be honest with you, Jake. I'm going to be completely honest with you. I want tomorrow to be a bullpen game for the Braves. I want to see everybody. And when I say that, look, I know Fried might want some innings. He only threw 5 the other day, so he very well may want some innings. He could get a few. Maybe you throw out a Kyle Muller if you want to do that. See what he can give you in the postseason. Maybe let him throw 4 or 5 innings. But I want to see Rysell. I want to see Jesse Chavez. I want to see Colin McHugh. I want to see Tyler Matzik, AJ Minter. I want to see every last one of them. And reason being, I want to know who can give me something come postseason. We've seen a lot of development in Kenley these past few weeks, right? Is that going to be consistent? Maybe we find out tomorrow night a little something, but he's looked a lot better. But guys that haven't exactly looked the greatest, that we know are good relievers, Tyler Matzik really comes to mind. If you give those guys innings, give those guys, maybe 1 or 2 innings apiece, whatever the case may be. I would not mind seeing a bullpen game. It doesn't mean anything. It doesn't count for anything. You can use that in a multitude of ways. You can use that for, like I just said, you can use it for, letting the older guys get an inning or 2 and shape up. You can use it for, letting a young guy get some innings and Kyle Muller, if you wanted to do that. And Kyle Muller is a guy that, is definitely the future of baseball, whether that be in a Braves uniform or not. He certainly could be a trade piece. I hope not. I really like his stuff. I think he's got major league level stuff and starter stuff for that matter. But being that the Braves are really full of starters right now, it may not be the case. But this is a guy that could contribute come postseason. He was one of the best pitchers in the minors and a guy that has a lot of good stuff and a great attitude for games like the postseason. He wants the challenge, and I'd be curious to know if the Braves have any intention of using him come postseason. Let's see. Mab tunes in. He says, I do not like the new bracket style. Top team should always face the lowest team. That's why you fight to be the top team all year. If Braves were number 1 and had to face the Mets instead of Phillies, it wouldn't be right. Sure, I don't disagree there necessarily. For me, I look at it, and it's I don't ever really question the process. I question more so like, okay, if I'm this team, what challenge do I have in front of me? And that's how I think the Braves think as well, because I look at this and I say, all right, the Braves did their job. They got their side of the bracket. They got where they wanted to be, and it's all about how it adds up. Personally, there's a lot about the game of baseball, the changes that are being made that I don't like about it, especially come next year. That being said, I don't like the fact that we have a 3-game wild card. That's not my favorite thing. Is it more postseason baseball? Kind of. You're still taking away 2 games out of the NLDS. That's now a 5-game series. It's technically more baseball. It adds more teams. I get it. Makes fans more invested. I get all of that. But it really doesn't put them at much of a chance to win anything come postseason unless you have 7 starters that are all on fire. It really puts you at a disadvantage. And I think we're going to see that this year, because I would be really surprised if the Rays, the Guardians, the Mariners, the Blue Jays, the Phillies, the Cardinals, the Padres, or the Mets made it past the NLDS. I would be really surprised. I'm not saying it's impossible. If you're a fan of one of those teams, hear me out. I am not saying it is impossible. I'm just saying it is a major disadvantage, especially considering these are the top 4 teams in baseball as of right now. You're talking about getting past the Yankees with Aaron Judge and their pitching staff. You're talking about getting past the Astros, who are without a doubt the best team in the American League and have been for the past 2 years now. You're talking about getting past the Braves, who just have carried the momentum now towards the end of the season, defending World Series champs. And you're talking about getting past the Dodgers, who have been the best team in baseball, arguably, for the past decade, on and off. So it's just a really challenging thing. And for a team like, the Rays or even the Padres, it's just going to be something that's very challenging. Again, not impossible, but that's my least favorite thing about this, is that is a 3-game series. Now, look, if I was one of those teams, would I be glad it's a 3-game series? Would I feel more represented in that series? Sure. I think it does provide a more well-rounded view of those teams for that series. It's what happens past that series that I don't like. Maybe if it was a little bit more time in between them, maybe, but it just doesn't set up well for those teams. That's just my opinion. Let's see. You guys are being very active. I'm going to try to pick a comment and go with it. Yeah, Chuck Black, here you go. The extra teams this year is all about revenue, exactly. Wildcard teams are at a terrible disadvantage because they have to play more games and it will wreak havoc on their pitchers. Exactly my point. Exactly my point. And look, it's good on baseball. Baseball has to make some changes. Let's be real. They have to do something. I don't think the pitch clock is the worst thing in the world, not my favorite thing. The change that I don't like for next year, my least favorite change for next year, is the pickoff rule. You have 2 pickoffs, and on the 3rd pickoff, you can still throw over there, but if you don't get the runner out, he's automatically the second. I don't like that at all. I don't like the 3-batter minimum. There's things about the game right now that I'm not a fan of. That being said, there are some changes that have to be made. Without a doubt, there are some changes that have to be made. And for baseball to be, baseball is trying to compete to be the number 1 sport in America. That's still trying, they're trying to do it. Football is taking the cake. Basketball's probably, if it's not already, bigger than baseball in America, it's on its way. Baseball has to compete a little bit. They have to make it a little better for the casual fan. We're not the casual fans. The people I have that are watching me live right now, y'all are not the casual fans. You guys are the educated fans. You guys are invested. They're not trying to attract you. They're trying to attract those guys that flip channels every Saturday, that flip channels on weeknights. Those are the guys that they're trying to attract. And it's not necessarily for the 4 teams that are in this conversation right now. The Braves, the Yankees, the Astros, and the Dodgers. Their fan bases are set. It's for other teams. It's like the Tampa Bay Rays, who have an empty stadium every week. The Marlins, who have an empty stadium. We've noticed that tonight. It's for those type of teams. Milwaukee. Think about Milwaukee. Milwaukee had to give up one of the best relievers in recent memory, who's now struggling, but at the time, one of the best relievers in recent memory, Josh Hader, and all because they couldn't afford to pay him past the season. How fair is that? And it's because it's not a big-time city. It's not a big market, and, it is what it is. Baseball has to attract viewers in those markets. That's what the changes are for. I know I've been going on a rant. I apologize. We're going to talk about the NL East, I promise. Thank you guys again for tuning in. You guys have been so active. Do me a favor, though. Like the video. It really does help me get this out there, and it really does help the channel. So if you've liked the content tonight, thank you for tuning in. I really do appreciate it. But make sure to like the video. It really does help. And, of course, you can follow me on social media right there on Twitter and Instagram. Let's see. I am Ken Ross. He says, yeah, he kind of adds on to my point here. I appreciate it. He says, I live in Miami. No one comes to the games, especially on weekdays. Tonight, we're watching the game, Ken. We're watching the game. I can see in the background on the little, the wall, the barrier, it says 4 tickets, 4 hot dogs, and 4 sodas for $44. Guys, that would cost you an arm and a leg at Brave Stadium, right, at Truist Park. That would cost you an arm and a leg. They're wanting guys to go there. It's only on weekdays. Or I think Wednesdays, whatever the case may be. Tampa has a very similar situation. That's how it is with not only low market teams. Miami's not low market, let's be real, but it is low attendance. And that is the real thing that baseball is battling. So to your point, Ken, absolutely. I've been there. I know what you're talking about. Let's see. Christopher A. says the biggest changes needed in baseball are how it's marketed and promoted. Major League Baseball has the deepest pool of talent it's had since the early to mid 80s, but unlike the 80s, you hardly see the players. Yeah, I think Trout, is not exactly marketed. I will say, in recent years, they're trying to change that. Fernando Tatis Jr. was good. Shohei has been a good change of pace to see how much he's marketed. That you're starting to see that. Judge this year, they do that, but I agree with you. It's obviously a marketing thing. I mean, how much of LeBron James or Kobe Bryant or, whoever the case may be, do you see come the NBA, right? NFL, it's marketed very well. It's also not accessible, right, for folks that want to watch their favorite team that may not live in that area, or even some that do live in the area. It's also not acceptable. We could talk about the changes that baseball needs, that all the changes it needs. It is what it is, but for right now, it's we'll do that another day. Let's talk about the Braves. We can just talk about all kinds of things. I don't know how to pronounce this name, but I'll just read it. We're lucky as Atlanta fans right now. Enjoy it. Can't take the good days for granted. Absolutely. My entire life, I was born in 1999. I did not see a Braves World Series championship until last year. And I know I'm not exactly an old man. I'm aware of that. But I waited my entire life to see that. And trust me, it's not taken for granted on this channel. These days are special. This team is special. What I will tell you is that this team is built to last. And that's something that I think we do need to realize. Matt Olson is here for 8 years. Acuna on a 10-year deal currently. I think he's got like 8 years left. Ozzy's here for another 6 to 7 years. Riley signed a 10-year deal this year. Michael Harris signed a 10-year deal this year. Contreras is signed till 2026, I think. There is still time with this team. This team is not going to fall apart. Other teams that you thought were going to be dynasties together did not stick together. The Cubs didn't stick together. The Astros, they're still winning, but they're not that core. Correa, Springer, they're not all there anymore. And Altuve still is, but a lot of that team is split up. It's still winning, but it is split up. We lost a big one in Freddie Freeman last year, but this team, the team that's on the field right now, for the most part, that core is going to stick together, and that's what's so exciting about it. Let's see. I am Ken Ross says, like the video if you want to win back-to-back titles. I couldn't agree more. If you want to win back-to-back titles, like this video. Listen to him. And we have a super chat from William Fogum. He says, okay, let's say we win the NLDS. Who do you want in the NLCS? Dodgers or Mets? I say LA. Let's take a look. I'm going to pull up this graphic just so I can talk over it pretty much. Let's take a look at the postseason. So what he is asking is, let's say we win the NLDS. That's against whoever, let's just call it the Cardinals. The Braves and Cardinals will take on each other in the NLDS. Who do we want in the NLCS? The Dodgers, the Mets, or the Padres? Personally, I know you asked if I wanted the Dodgers or Mets. I think we would be able to beat the Mets a little easier. I think the Dodgers are the more obvious team we would face. That being said, we're asking for a lot to happen here, but I'll play along. I think the Padres would honestly beat the Mets, but I don't think either one of those teams are escaping the Dodgers, not on short rest. I think the Braves are even going to have their work cut out for them against the Dodgers. That being said, I look forward to facing whoever. I think the Dodgers series last year was special, and I think we can beat them. I think they can beat us. I think that'll actually be a very competitive series, and that's what I'm looking forward to seeing. And we'll see how it goes. We'll follow it in stride. We never know what's going to happen. Injuries and such. Not wishing anything on anybody, especially not the Atlanta Braves. But things do happen, and changes do happen. Last year the Dodgers were gassed by the time they faced us in the NLCS because they had their hands full with the Giants in the NLDS. So a lot can happen. That being said, it's going to be a fun one to watch for sure. Thank you for William Fogum for dropping that super chat. We do appreciate it. Reminder, if you have a specific question, I'm monitoring the chat as best I can. You guys are so active tonight. I appreciate you being active tonight. It really does help the channel grow. But super chats are the best way to get me to get in contact. To get in the front of the line, you get my attention, and it's just really easy to see. So just a reminder of that. Also, reminder, you can follow me on social media. Those are the tags. Reggie, the commenter. Thank you for commenting, Reggie. He says, what do we want in the World Series? Or who do we want in the World Series? I say the Yankees. Home field for us and great TV. It would be great TV, especially with what Judge is doing. I think Major League Baseball would do anything for the Yankees to be in the World Series again. What they would want, if you're Major League Baseball, what you want would probably be like the Yankees and Dodgers. Because that's the two biggest fan bases. Yankees and Braves would be just fine too, though. If you want to know who I'd want, I probably would want the Yankees. I think it would be great TV, and I think it would be special. It'd be a rematch of '96, so that would be kind of cool. Personally, though, if I'm honest with you, I don't think it will be the Yankees. I don't think they have enough to take down the Astros. Now, look, in a 7-game series, anybody can be lightning in a bottle. So what I'm saying, I'm not trying to predict anything here. I'm just telling you, if I'm honest with you, I don't think anybody is anywhere close to the Astros right now. I just don't. And I'm far from the only one to think that. I think it's the Astros and everybody else on the American League side. I really do. And again, it does not matter all the time. In the postseason, anybody can beat anybody. It's like professional wrestling. Anybody can beat anybody. I mean, how many people would have assumed that the Braves would beat the Dodgers last year, right? I mean, honestly, even if you're a Braves fan, let's be real. At that time, no one was talking about the Braves beating the Dodgers. Not one soul, except for a few of us. That being said, it could happen. Anything can happen. Absolutely. Yeah, I see you in the chat. 96 and 99. Thank you for that. Walker says, Yankees and Braves has been something I want to see my entire life. I'm here for it. I'm absolutely here for it. But as Ken Ross says, bring on Houston again. I'm good with that as well. I enjoyed that series. I thought it was a great series. I wouldn't mind seeing it again. I think they're definitely going to be motivated to play us for obvious reasons. So, I'm good with that as well. I don't care. You know what? Let me rephrase. I don't care who we face in the World Series, as long as we face somebody in the World Series. That's kind of how I would put it. Mark Hatfield, you're a new name. I'm going to read yours. Or the Astros, where we can catch them cheating again. Look, we don't talk about that so much anymore. But yeah, that did happen. Hate it did. Hopefully it won't happen this year. Let's see. Christopher A. says the Braves versus Yankees would be great for longtime baseball fans. Yankees versus LA would be great for the MLB and the networks. Yeah, I mean, that's what I'm saying. Like, that's what the networks would want. That's what would bring in ratings. That's what would be easy to broadcast. I mean, let's just be real. That's the truth. But beside that, longtime baseball fans would probably love to see Braves and Yankees. It would, that history there is certainly there. And I would like to see it. I would like to see, as weird as this is going to sound, I'd like to see Judge. With the year he's having, I'd like to see Judge in the World Series. I would also like to see Ronald Acuna in the World Series because we didn't get to see him in there last year. So there's a lot to really think about there. And obviously everybody's going to look, I was to explain to somebody today. I printed this off earlier, and I was kind of going through what I thought about it and really giving my thoughts about it and that kind of thing. And I mentioned this to somebody, and like, why are you trying to predict this? Why are you trying to? I was like, well, I just want to get an idea of where I think this could go. I predicted it correctly a few years ago. To a T, I predicted it correctly. I always try to just see kind of what makes sense to me. What makes sense to me? I encourage you, print this off, look at it, and just think. How do you see this going? Everybody's going to do it. I see a lot of you guys are already doing it. A lot of you guys are already in the comment section. Just I'd like to see the Braves and Yankees. I'd like to see the Braves and Astros. I'd like to see the Yankees and Dodgers. A lot of you guys are going to do that. So I encourage you, do it, and maybe you're right. Make it like a March Madness thing. Real quick, I don't want to take a break from the chat, but I did just see something pop up, and I'm pretty sure it's accurate. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, we just hit 4,000 subscribers. Indeed, we did. That is thanks to you guys. You guys, this broadcast helped us cross that threshold of 4,000 subscribers. It wasn't that long ago that we were announcing 3,000. So thank you guys. It's been a fun year this year, obviously covering the Braves. It's not over. So if you're out there and you have not pressed that subscribe button, do it. Subscribe to the channel. We are here all the time. We're going to be here throughout the entire postseason. No matter if the Braves are there or not, we're going to be following along. Again, don't want to announce anything too specific, but Game 1, the NLDS, the 12th is when that game will take place. We will be back here doing a live stream during that entire game, answering your questions alongside a former Atlanta Brave and former Washington National, actually. But he will be with me. Don't want to drop his name just yet, but I'm very excited about that. You should be too. You're not going to want to miss it. Make sure to like this video, subscribe to this channel, all that good stuff. It really does help. And, of course, your viewership does help. So make sure to check out some of the channels or check out some of the videos on the channel. We recently just interviewed Ron Washington. We've interviewed Tyler Matzik, Luke Jackson for you Braves fans out there. If you're a Tigers fan, there's a Denny McClain interview. I mean, there's all kinds of things. I encourage you, go check it out. You won't want to miss it. Let's see. Samantha Lucas says hello. Hello to you. Mike Morgan says, Old Ted Turner did the Braves right by making TBS. Yeah, Braves fans are everywhere. I mean, I think, it's probably pretty evident by this chat tonight. You guys are probably from everywhere, all across the country for sure. So, yeah, Ted Turner. Jorge with a super chat. A reminder, super chats do put you first in line. Jorge says, hey, Tyler, I'd like Braves-Yankees so the Braves could finally beat the Yankees in a World Series. I wonder who Mets fans would root for if that happens. I will tell you this. Frank the Tank a few weeks ago said that he would probably root for the Yankees if that were to happen. That's the only team he'd ever root against is the Braves. Looking at the postseason picture, I mean, yeah, the Braves and Yankees is certainly a possibility. They're staring at each other across the bracket there. It's certainly a possibility, but there's a lot that has to happen before that. We got a lot of postseason baseball to get through. So when that happens, we'll, of course, be here to talk about it. You know what? I hope whoever you want to go with is whoever you want to see in the World Series. I hope that's who we get. That's kind of where I'm at with it. I again don't really care who we get in the World Series as long as we get somebody in the World Series. That would be ideal. Let's see. Fear Me asks a very good question. Are the Braves better than last year? Last year was special. Without a doubt, last year was special. The postseason was special. The turnaround halfway through the season, the trade deadline. Again, credit to this man right here, Alex Anthopoulos, for that. It was very special. And it provided a lot of special moments. This one right here with Rosario, of course, Jorge Soler's homer later in the World Series. There was a lot of special moments. And the reason it was so special, I would say, is because it was so unexpected. And not that these guys aren't talented, don't get me wrong, but for a team like that to piece itself together really at the trade deadline, leave with less than 100 wins in the regular season, and really less than 90 wins in the regular season, to go in and top the Dodgers in the NLCS, a 100-win team, fresh off of beating another 100 team in the NLDS, the Giants, it was just very unexpected and very fun. So what I would tell you is, as good as those memories are, yes, this team is better. I think it has a better starting rotation, a more complete starting rotation with the addition of Kyle Wright and Spencer Strider, number one. Number two, I would say that the lineup is better all the way through. We had our stars last year, Freddie Freeman being one of them. Austin Riley was a good star last year. Jorge Soler, Eddie Rosario were all firing off on all cylinders. Jock Peterson did well. We found ways to succeed. But this year, you have not only the guys I just mentioned, you've replaced Freddie Freeman with Matt Olson. And Matt Olson is somebody that, doesn't get quite the credit he deserves, I don't think. I think, after the Mets series, him and Dansby both hitting 3 home runs in that series apiece, I think that probably opened a lot of eyes to him. But this is a guy who's been good for a long time. We've added him. Good lefty bat, solid lefty bat. You've replaced Freeman pretty much with that. But you've also added to your pen. You've added the addition of Kenley Jansen, Raisel Iglesias. And not to mention, one of the biggest things I want to mention here, you got this guy back. Ronald Acuna Jr. did not see the postseason last year. Hasn't seen a postseason in a couple of years. You think he's not sitting on go? I got a feeling he is. And I think he's really going to be ready this year for it. And you're getting Ozzie back, and you're getting Strider back. So just keep that in mind. So yes, the question is, are we better than last year? I would say yes. Another super chat from Johnny T. Shout out to Double A for turning Nuke into Uncle Jesse and Iggy. Yeah, he's talking about Sean Newcomb, turning that into Jesse Chavez and Iglesias. Go Braves. Like the video, too many people with not that many likes. Yeah, 320 of you guys are watching right now. 195 likes. Let's get that up. We got 4,000 subscribers tonight. Let's get the likes up. Thank you for that, Johnny T. As always, yeah, Double A is one of the best in the game right now. I would say he's number one, but I might be biased. But I think Double A is without a doubt one of the best general managers all across baseball. Cheyenne says, going into the playoffs, Matt Olson is playing like Eddie did last year. Yeah. Matt Olson was clutch throughout that Mets series, and without a doubt. You saw the video. We talked to Matt earlier this year. You will never meet a more likable guy than Matt Olson. I mean, just very soft-spoken, humble, but a great talent he is. And I I asked Ron Washington about him because Ron Washington had him in his younger years, and Wash basically said something to the effect of, we kind of get it. We basically got him out of his comfort zone, and we made him a little bit more open to the goofiness that they have amidst the clubhouse, and it's been nice to see that develop. A lot of questions about what former Atlanta Brave is coming in next week. Not dropping that just yet, guys. You will see when we do. I want to make sure that is confirmed before I tell you anything. But just know it's going to be fun. It's going to be fun. Bring your questions. This guy played in the early 2000s, and that's really all I'm going to tell you. He was a fun guy to watch, had a couple of good years with the Braves, and he's a good friend of mine. So make sure to tune in next Tuesday night for Game 1. You won't want to miss it. If you're watching the game, you get to talk to a former player during it, and I don't know anywhere else you can do that. Let's see. Joseph's recap says, wouldn't mind a rematch against the Astros. Yeah, absolutely. Trying to look for legit questions. Alistair actually asked a very good question. Says, hi, Tyler. Do you think Matzik will pitch much in the postseason? He was a star last year. I would say he's going to pitch. I'm surprised that he's not pitching more than he is. So to your credit, he hasn't been pitching a ton. He has had his struggles. That's really why I want to see him tomorrow. I want to see really a bullpen game tomorrow. That would be ideal. But beyond that, Matzik has got to work through some things. And he has struggled this year. He got hurt this year. We spoke to him earlier this year, and he says he feels good. I would expect him to pitch this postseason. Now, to ask for something along the lines of last year is a tall task. And really, that was kind of a once-in-a-lifetime moment. But you know what? With good pitchers comes good moments. He's a good pitcher. I expect good moments out of Matzik. I would love to see it, to your point. Absolutely. Donta says, yes, this is a way better team than last year, Atlanta Braves. Absolutely. Jack Missile says he wants to know, what is the word on Spencer Strider? Is he going to be ready on time? We don't know. What we do know is this. Spencer Strider is throwing on flat ground. What that means is he's throwing on flat ground. He's not on the mound, for those that don't know. But he is throwing on flat ground. His arm does feel good. His oblique feels good. He feels good. The next step for him is to take steps onto the mound and throw some pitches from there. That's what we know. I expect him to be ready, if not for the NLDS, then for the NLCS. I would hope that he's ready by the time start number 3 comes around, or game number 3 comes around, for him to pitch in. Ideally, you'd want to start the series Fried, Wright, Strider, Morton, etc. And really you might pitch Fried on 4 days rest if it comes down to it. Bravos 1 says Bravos can beat anybody right now. I would agree with that. Let's see. Mark Hatfield, another strong arm phenom, wouldn't hurt too. Yeah, I mean, look, we would love we would love more talent as always, but the talent the Braves got this year in Harris and this guy Vaughn Grissom, the talent that they've been able to acquire just in their rookies, not to mention Spencer Strider, has been really fun to watch. I think it's a big source of the ability to switch this season around, like we've seen. I mean, to come back from a 10.5 game deficit was special. And it was something that, is true to form for the Braves. I mean, this was the team. This was how good this team is. The depth is key for the Braves. That's something the Mets don't have. Because, again, the Mets probably have a better starting 2 than the Braves on paper. DeGrom, Scherzer, doesn't get much better than that. But the depth is what was missing. DeGrom was hurt, and that hurt them. Scherzer was hurt there for a while. That hurt them. Past that, your best pitcher is Carlos Carrasco. He leaves for a week because he's hurt. Then you're down to Taijuan Walker and some change, right? And no disrespect to anybody on the Mets. It's just facts. The Braves had a lot of depth in their minor league system. That comes from the rebuild for years and honestly being terrible for years and hard to watch for years. And it provided the Braves the ability to draft. And credit to Dana Brown and all the guys in the department of going after young players, because they've been able to really do it. And look, there's players in the system that we look forward to. Mike Harris was one of them. That we were looking forward to. Vaughn Grissom was another that we were looking forward to. This is a guy I'm looking forward to. Cole Phillips. We interviewed him earlier this year. He just got drafted, 18-year-old kid, 6'4", can throw 100 miles an hour when healthy. Just check out that interview. If you're a Braves fan, I suggest you really go check out that interview. You're going to fall in love with that kid. You're going to be rooting for him, and you're going to be looking forward to him throwing in the major leagues in just a few years. So that is what I wanted to say there. Again, guys, like the video, subscribe to the channel, all that good stuff. And, of course, hit the bell for notifications so that you can keep up to date with everything we got going on here on deck and, of course, all across Major League Baseball and all across the postseason. Thank you guys for tuning in. I'm trying to catch up. A lot of you guys being active tonight. Let's see. Jonathan Miller, how do we pull a royal flush out of a farm system that should give us at best ace high for the next few years? So the farm system has been interesting these past couple of years because we were told at one time that, you know, Christian Pache was the next big thing, Drew Waters was the next big thing, and then all of a sudden they're not, but a guy named Michael Harris and another guy named Vaughn Grissom are, right? So we were kind of misled there, not intentionally, but we were a little misled there. And the farm system, I think, is at a point where there was a lot of talent at the top that was keeping, you know, the talent in Double-A down, and they weren't able to really move up. And that talent had to get out of the way. So when we traded for Matt Olson, we traded a guy named Shea Langoliers and a guy named Christian Pache off to Oakland, two of our biggest prospects. Really sad to see Shea go, but with a guy like Contreras, you know, you don't necessarily need him, and if you can make the deal happen with Olson, you got to do it. Things happen. Those guys got out of the way. Younger guys moved up. Then at the trade deadline, you traded Drew Waters for a draft pick. You know, a lot of people were unsure about that, but it turned into one of our draft picks this year, and I can't even remember who it was right now, but it turned into a draft pick this year. We're at a point where our farm system, we got to pick who we want and move on from the rest, and that's kind of what I think has happened. So the farm system has been interesting, but you know, our farm system ranking, I think, was 17th going into this year. Who would have thought that a 17th ranked out of 30 teams would have pulled guys like Michael Harris out of it, guys like Vaughn Grissom out of it, guys like Spencer Strider out of it? They did, and it has worked so far. So we will continue to see and monitor. We try to follow the minor leagues too a little bit, just to keep an eye on it. Of course, when Soroka was up in Rome, we went and followed that, obviously, for obvious reasons. There's a headline there. It kind of writes itself. You know, we're rooting for all those guys in the minors, and there's a few names that we keep an eye on. Soroka is obviously one of them right now, but Harris was one. Grissom was one. And there's going to be more as time goes on. And with the farm system like the Braves have had over the past decade, you know, has been, you know, easy to watch. Credit to not only, you know, the Braves' current front office and Dana Brown, but also, the former administration. And, you know, that is what it is. But what the Braves have been able to do under that time has been, you know, has been very fun to watch and very fun to follow. For me, I'm not one of these guys that gets on here and gives you radical opinions. I get on here and try to give you legit knowledge and experience beyond that. I try to give you, you know, what we follow day to day and use that to, you know, further your knowledge. So I have found it very interesting over the years to follow what the Braves are doing. And it started back in like 2013 when everything went, you know, to pot pretty much. You know, we traded away all the players. We traded away Kimbrel, the Uptons. You know, we traded away all those guys. And we essentially got prospects back. Okay, let's see how this goes. That's kind of when my journey with really following the Braves day-to-day started. So it's been very interesting for me personally to follow that all the way up until this point and see the results of that, see the rewards of that labor, and to see it, you know, win a World Series and send us on the path to potentially win another one. It's been exciting for sure. But yeah, we're going to continue to follow it. Let's see. Arnold says, we left so many men on base tonight. Pitching won this game. I'm very happy for Odorizzi. Yeah, Odorizzi's caught a lot of grief, much like Kenley did over the past, you know, couple of months. Look, pitching wins ball games too. And, you know, I said this earlier in the stream. I'll say it again. Pitching is going to win the ball games in the postseason. You're not going to see, I mean, you could, but rarely are you going to see a game won with 10 runs or more. It's just rare, not in the postseason. If you do, it's an outlier. So postseason, if you really want to be successful in the postseason, you have to have good pitching. And to tell you the truth, when I look at this bracket, when I look at, the way this presents itself, when I look at who I think could beat who, first thing I start with is pitching. And if Odorizzi can perform anything like he did tonight throughout these games, that does bode well for the Braves. So starting with the wild card series, I look at the pitching, right? The Rays are interesting because you have Glass now kind of back, but I'd probably give the edge to the Guardians there. You have Zach Plesac. You have better pitching on the Guardians. You have Shane Bieber there for the Mariners and Toronto. I kind of lean towards Toronto for their pitching, but that's kind of a toss-up. That's the one toss-up really in this bracket is that series to me. But honestly, I kind of find it irrelevant because whoever wins it goes to face the Astros and likely lose anyway. For the Cardinals, I think the Cardinals probably have better pitching. On paper between the Padres and the Mets, I think the Mets have better pitching, but in this current situation, I think the Padres have the edge there. That's kind of how I go about picking a winner there. And that's just me. I mean, that's just kind of where I start. It's not a guarantee. It's not, completely foolproof. But I think it's a good start when looking at, the series as a whole is okay, well, who's pitching, right? When you look at any series, when you look at any three-game series, the 3-game series with the Braves and Mets, what was the first thing you looked at? Who's on the mound, right? For us, it was Fried in game 1. It was Wright in game 2. You felt pretty confident, but they still had to go through DeGrom and Scherzer, right? And it's natural. That's what you're going to look towards, Offense is not something that you can predict day to day. Pitching is something that has to be consistent. And if you don't have consistent pitching in the postseason, you really have nothing. And that's just a good place to start, in my opinion. But yeah, the Braves, I don't want to get too far from what the original topic was, and it was that the Braves did win the National League East tonight. They are the National League champs. They are 5-time NL East champions, and that is something that I don't want to gloss over. I don't want to skip past. That is exciting, and the Braves at one time had 15 straight National League East titles, and as great as that is, this point right now, the way the Braves are competing, there's no reason to think that they couldn't do this for another 5 to 6 years. And that would, bring them right around 10. 14 straight is something that I've been told by the guys that did it will never happen again. And that very well might be the case. But if 2 or 3 World Series championships come out of it with about 8 or 9 division championships, we'll take it. And I think this year, if you're a Braves fan, you're still watching, I think this year should be kind of a lesson to us. Division championships, no matter how good your team is, division championships are very hard to win. Just one is hard to win, much less 14 like the Braves did, back in the day. That being said, what the Braves been able to do for the past 4 years and now 5 has been very impressive. I don't want you to overlook how hard winning one division championship is. Because look, yes, the Braves have been able to do it the past few years. They did it last year with like 89 wins. That's great. Winning one like this, when you have another team that's just as good, if not really better than you on a day-to-day basis, winning one like that is very impressive. It has all the momentum going into the postseason. That's really what matters right now. But don't overlook how hard winning the division is. There are teams that rarely ever win the division. They're out there. And just the fact that the Braves were able to do it this year says a lot about them. The way they've been able to do it for the past 5 says a lot about them. And hopefully they'll continue to do it. And, the Mets are here to stay. They're a good club. And they might break apart a little bit. You might see some pieces move in the offseason. You might see some pieces move for the Braves in the offseason. But the way the Braves have been able to win, the way they were able to win this year especially, being down 10.5 games at one point is so impressive. And I don't want to overlook it. Again, credit to the front office, credit to the players, credit to Brian Snitker, credit to all the coaching staff, our buddy Ron Washington, all those guys. Credit to them. It is absolutely outstanding what they've been able to do. Guys, we're going to wrap it up here in just a minute. If you have a super chat, if you have one last topic, get it in. I'll read it towards the end of the show. But do me a favor, on your way out, like the video, subscribe if you haven't. We hit 4,000 subscribers tonight. I can't thank you enough for that. It really does help the channel when you guys subscribe, so thank you for that. Thank you for tuning in tonight. Obviously very exciting that the Braves were able to win their 5th straight National League championship. That is phenomenal. Phenomenal news for you, phenomenal news for me at this channel for covering the Braves. Obviously it's exciting. But again, thank you guys so much for tuning in. And I know some of you guys are wrapping it up, but I, again, cannot thank you enough. And we will see you next time right here at On Deck. Don't forget, next time we are here live will most likely be next Tuesday. Don't forget that next Tuesday we will be live here for Game 1 of the NLDS. It is official. The Braves' first game will be for the NLDS. That is next Tuesday. Do not forget about it. We will have a special guest. You'll find out who that is on the day of, but it's going to be exciting. I'll leave it at that. With that out of the way, guys, thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you next time right here at On Deck.
This is Tyler Matzik, and you're watching On Deck with Tyler Redmond.
Got a pretty good team this year. You guys are currently a wild card team. You know, knocking on the door of first place in the National League East. How do you feel about this team?
I think we had a great team. I think we got a great chance. Our starting pitching's been doing great. Our lineup's banging. Bullpen's been doing a pretty good job. So we just stay this course. I think we have a very good chance of winning this division. And when that happens, hopefully we get a good spot in the in the tournament, and we can take the trophy again.
If they can win in Atlanta, if they can perform in Atlanta and get some of those games back, which I believe they can, then the Braves could set themselves up for success. They can make a run in September.
This is Matt Olson. You're watching On Deck with Tyler Redmond.
Well, this is when the Braves are going to catch the Mets. This is when the Braves are really going to make a drive to catch up to the Mets in the division. Because, earlier in the year they had a 10.5 game lead. It was a different perspective. Now, the Braves have already caught the Mets. And I know they're a half game back, but they've caught the Mets. That being said, this is their last chance right here, this couple of week stretch, for them to get ready for that series with the Mets in Atlanta. This is a chance for them to either add on to their lead if they're leading, again, take the lead again, or a chance to extend their lead, whatever the case may be. This is their last chance to bolster whatever they're going to have going into the series with the Mets in Atlanta. This is it.
Hi, this is Phil Necro. You're watching On Deck with Tyler Redmond.
I think this is a very good team. I think they can make a run at a postseason. They're well in the wild card race right now. But that being said, if you want to set yourself